Let me guess. You're on your bed watching YouTube and studying instead of doing the IA that was actually due like a month ago? Would I be right in saying that? Hi, I'm Ruby. I graduated in 2018 with a 44 with 7s in all these 6 subjects, and I got an A in my EE, which was in music, and a C in my top. With the experience that I had in my IB and also my experience that I've had tutoring over the past 2 years, hopefully I'll be able to pass on some valuable knowledge that I've picked up watching my students grow as better learners. Feel free to use any of the timestamps over here to skip to whatever may benefit you the most, and I'm more than happy to answer any of the questions. Just DM me on Instagram or leave a comment down below, and I'll be more than happy to answer them. The first tip that I have for you guys is just something so invaluable in my opinion, and that is self-discipline. It's just being able to ensure that you're able to focus and study by yourself without someone else telling you and forcing you to do it. For instance, not having your IB coordinator need to chase you down for that IA that was actually due like a month ago. To maintain that discipline, I think that one thing that really helped me was being able to move a desk into another room that wasn't my own bedroom, so I could really separate the notion of rest, such as sleeping, and then work. If you're studying on your bed, I'll have you know that the fine line between watching YouTube and studying can be really easily blurred. Make the room and area that you're studying in super comfortable, incentivizing you to just continue to go back there and study, and also make sure that your chair and desk are both super ergonomic, so that first of all, you won't be developing early symptoms of scoliosis, and second of all, you can also reduce the chances of you just procrastinating or getting distracted throughout your study. On the topic of notes, you're probably wondering how to best curate your notes throughout the course. Well, essentially, I took a lot of motivation from these study blogs that I followed on Instagram, which I honestly think motivated me so much. The level of aestheticism and the level of neatness of these notes were just crazy, and I was like, I wanted to create that myself. I think just, in general for notes, you just need something that can really incentivize yourself to just go back and look at them, if you know what I mean. Since my economics class was super essay-based, I basically not only had the notes that I had for each topic, but I also wrote out a general essay structure that I could follow for each time that I would get that specific topic, so it just made things easier when I just looked through my notes. In this case, I basically separated everything into different kind of categories, so when I highlighted things, I knew exactly what I was talking about. For instance, if I wanted to find something about equity, I would just look here and then find something that was colored in pink, and then I would be able to find everything that was about that specific topic. And I think that really simplified just finding the relevant topics that I needed to study for. I did try bullet journaling for a while because I thought it was such a good kind of creative activity to just balance out everything in IB. So I put my monthly goals down. I had a calendar that I created for myself with some really important deadlines, such as my IA deadline. I had kind of a thing to check in with myself every single day to see how much sleep I was getting, if I was getting enough water, my to-do list. You get the idea. So essentially, this is just a checklist for how productive I was feeling over the time. It's very customizable. There are so many things that you can choose to put on your bullet journal, or search on YouTube how to bullet journal, and there will be tons of results to show you and give you a guide of how to exactly execute these goals. Here I'd like to bring up the idea of the Ebbinghaus forgetting curve. So Ebbinghaus hypothesized the notion of declining memory retention, and the downward slope of the forgetting curve can actually be softened by repeating the information that you've learned at particular intervals. So people tend to forget about 90% of what they've learned throughout the space of 2 weeks, and so essentially you can flatten this curve, and might I say how apt in the time of the coronavirus this is, by engaging in spaced repetition. Material is learned, then reviewed after increasingly large time gaps. So essentially your brain is more likely to label information as really important if it's been repeated, and so the first time that you repeat studying something should be done within the 24 hours of when you first study something, but then you can gradually increase the gap between when you first study it and when you repeat studying it again. To add on to this, I also found prevising so important. Honestly, when I first started, for instance, my econ class, I didn't know what the hell allocative efficiency was, but then after prevising before each class, I felt so much more comfortable just being in class and more confident in answering questions, and I think that interacting in class is so important, and you should do whatever it takes to make yourself more comfortable in just being able to answer questions confidently. On the the topic of sleep, research has shown that students your age should be getting at least 8 to 10 hours of sleep per night. If you're going to sleep at 2 a.m., then waking up at 7 a.m. to go to school, then honestly 5 hours of sleep is just not enough. I'm sure you know already, but sleep deficiency can lead to impaired memory, inattentiveness, and just in general a really messed up sleep routine. You get entrapped by this endless cycle of waking up unrefreshed, you can't focus in class, you have really poor knowledge retention, and then you take 5-hour naps when you get home. And then after all of that, you sleep super late because you just can't get to sleep and you feel super unfulfilled. I can't overemphasize enough that a long time spent studying does not necessarily equate to good scores. I think a good action point is just basically to set a schedule for yourself so you could revise for the 6 subjects that you had at school that day in little 30-minute chunks, so that basically after you finish studying for all of them, you can feel so much more fulfilled and proud of yourself. Moving on, I'd like to say that practice exams are honestly your best friend in second year, and if you don't know already, there is a wealth of resources that you can access online from this website called IB Resources, and I'm pretty sure you can access this from the subreddit for IB, which I will link down in the description box below. You're just handing them into your teachers, the teachers will see how much dedication and hard work you're putting into trying to solidify the knowledge that you've learned so far. For me, I found the best way to navigate all of these practice exams was basically set up an Excel spreadsheet where I just basically listed what I'd done so far and what I hadn't done yet, so that I'd be able to guarantee the fact that I would have finished all the practice exams that I wanted to do at the very end of my course. Another really important note to mention in this case is basically relying on mark schemes. Mark schemes are literally written by the people who will be marking your final exam. If you give them the information that they wrote themselves, you cannot go wrong because you're just feeding the information that they want you to write. And this brings me to my next point, which is goal setting. I think goal setting is super important in the context of such a lengthy course as IB. I found it personally helpful to frame all my deadlines around the assessments and the tests that I had. For instance, if I had an internal assessment due this term, I'd be looking to start it at least 1 term prior to when it was actually due, so I would have a lot of time to refine my writing and consult my teachers in case they had any feedback for me. This also alleviated a lot of stress from having all of these deadlines come together. I feel that if you're able to use the free time that you have in the holidays to finish as much as you can, I think that will save you so much stress later on. I think the most important thing that IB taught me is the importance of collaboration and just working together. IB is an international course, you're not competing against your classmates, anyone can get a 45. Anyone can get a 44. It's a non-competitive basis kind of study. I felt that interacting and being able to communicate with all my friends in IB and create a really friendly cohort was the most important thing and most valuable thing that I got out of IB. Anyway, I hope these tips gave you an idea of how you may go about changing your study routine to implement a more effective study routine throughout your 2 years in the IB course. Feel free to DM me on Instagram for any other questions that you may have. Otherwise, thank you for watching and I'll see you next time.